If you knew absolutely nothing about exercise, these are the 5 tips that I would recommend that you would do for the rest of your life, and you would definitely see results. Now, the implementation is the actual hard part of this. Knowing that you should rest and knowing that you should eat well is pretty obvious for most people, but how do you combine all 5 of these into an actual plan that's realistic for you to go long term? Now, the first one that I want to start off with is progressive overload. Progressive overload is just a fancy way of saying, how am I making the exercise that I've selected for this program harder over time? And the best way that we look at it is through the lens of frequency and intensity. Frequency is just simply how many times per week are you hitting this muscle group? And then intensity is usually measured through the lens of weights. How much weight are you pushing or how much weight are you pulling for that given exercise? Now, the one thing that I want you to take away from progressive overload is just make sure over time you're gradually getting stronger or you're gradually adding more weight or more frequency. At a certain point, you can't be hitting a muscle group 5 times per week. So it's mainly through the lens of intensity because just over time you can slowly add more weight. Now, it gets a lot more complicated than that, but if you're just a beginner or an intermediate, you can literally just stick to that principle there. And for compound movements, this is just any exercise that involves multiple joints. And so anything like a squat, a lunge, a deadlift, a pull-up, these are all exercises that you want to be at the forefront of your workout. Now, I used to start my exercises with a bicep curl or like a lateral raise, and that is just really just stupid. Just don't do that. Save your energy for the actual hard exercises. Most people have heard of the 80-20 principle. 80% of your gains are pretty much going to be coming from your compounds. Now, if you want to sculpt your shoulders or grow your biceps a little bit bigger, wherever you're lacking in kind of your aesthetic physique, obviously some isolation movements are going to be helpful, but the primary focus is the compound movements. Now for nutrition, this is one of my favorites because it's one of the more complicated ones, but in almost every scenario, if you just limit the amount of fast food that you're eating, the amount of sugar that you're eating, if you stop drinking your calories and then be aware of how much protein you're eating on a given day, you're pretty much going to see a huge change in your body composition. There's just no way that if you're eating shit right now and you stop eating shit, that you won't see progress in your body composition. Now, this one might seem like the most obvious, but this is the one I've probably been the absolute worst at throughout my life. Is I've been playing video games up until midnight, 2 a.m., then getting up at 7 a.m. Not anymore, but when I was in college. And so I was not prioritizing rest at all because I just wanted to game, and I was like, whatever, like I still hit good workouts because I'm drinking 600 milligrams of caffeine, so why does it matter? Like why, rest isn't really transforming my body that much, is it? And then for recovery, this is just doing things like simple mobility work or foam rolling before I go to bed. I used to just hit a leg workout, not do anything, leave the gym, and then I would just not do anything after that either. So it wasn't a surprise that I was getting injured when I would try and go for a jog or a run because I just wasn't resting properly and then I wasn't recovering properly. So I can't expect my body to just be this magical like unicorn that will just reset completely for myself because I was going hard in the gym. I was going super hard. So make sure that you're prioritizing your rest and your recovery. Set up the habits that will allow you to sleep well. Set up the habits that will allow you to do some foam rolling or mobility work. It doesn't take that much time. Whenever I talk to someone about fitness or exercise, this seems to be the one that they hate the most because it's like, do I really have to do all of these for the rest of my life to maintain an aesthetic physique or be healthy? Yes, it sucks, but at the same time, you learn to kind of appreciate it over time. And also, once you've hit a specific threshold, it's much easier to maintain something than it is to restart or start in general. And so consistency at a certain point, especially once you're further along in your journey, gets much, much easier. And I think you can apply that to pretty much everything. If you've gotten good at something, it doesn't take as much to just maintain that, whether that's like a sport, an instrument, even with education. And so With consistency, you just have to set a realistic framework for all of these, and I'll go into more videos on how to do that. But yeah, these are the 5 tips that I would recommend, that if you just wanted to stay aesthetic, look aesthetic, move well, and just be healthy in general for longevity, these are what I would do.